Welcome back to the Loaded Cannon. And man, the one thing I didn't need today with this game was for it to be delayed, especially for as long as it was delayed because of poor weather conditions. It's 3:30 in the morning here in the UK. I've got a dentist appointment in 5 hours. Man. But you know what? It does make me realise that this is the day-to-day story for so many fans all over the world. I've travelled and watched a lot of Arsenal games in different countries, going from like Thailand to Singapore to Australia, New Zealand, Japan, whatever. And the commitment that I see from Arsenal fans and American ones as well, of course, the commitment I see is absolutely brilliant. And we're getting a taster of that now. Arsenal fans in England, people like myself that go to the games where the kickoff times are suited for us. Now we're seeing what it feels like to be one of these really committed international fans. And I'm not looking forward to waking up in the morning after 5 hours sleep. But hey, listen, it's an absolute treat for international fans to be able to welcome Arsenal to their hometown. I'm sure the Orlando Gooners loved it. For me, usually I'd be there. But now I've got a 16-month-old son, so my life has changed. And I'll be honest with you, first half, I was not missing it one bit. It was a really ordinary first half. Clearly, when you look at who we had out on the pitch, it wasn't our first team players. And I don't think that these players who aren't necessarily first teamers did themselves much justice, because they didn't really stand out and say, do you know what, we can actually do the job. I was looking at it thinking, is this because it's a friendly? Is it because their level's just not good enough? Is it that Orlando are decent? But it made me think, if this is the way we're playing, 16 days to our Premier League season opener. But thankfully, all of that confusion in my head in the first half has been absolutely put to bed by the proper Arsenal team that came out in the second half and I thought played really well and just dominated the game. When you look at Ben White, how high up the pitch he was playing, I think that tells you everything you need to know in terms of the dominance that we had. Talking of Ben White, though, actually, he looked like the worst of our three potentially first-choice defenders. He got kind of spun a little bit today, to be honest with you. And the question that a lot of Arsenal fans have is, well, who do you choose out of Saliba, Gabrielle and Ben White? So let me know in the comments below, who would your first choice be? Pick two out of those three. I personally would stick with Gabrielle and White. They've got the understanding, they've got that relationship. I don't want to chuck Saliba into a Premier League opener where Palace will be so up for the game. But, I think by the end of the season, it will be Saliba who is our first choice centre-back. I think he looks brilliant. In those moments where he's called upon, he just looks really good. He's got pace, physicality, concentration, and he's displayed that for Marseille over the last year. I just hope that in a very physical league like the Premier League, he can replicate his form for Marseille. But, he looks like one hell of a player. Now, let's talk about a couple of other players in the game today. And I'm going to start with players that I don't really think covered themselves in glory. 3 players to be precise, but let's start with Nuno Tavares. Now, Nuno Tavares, look, it seemed like any joy that Orlando had in the first half going forward, it was near in and around Tavares. He just doesn't seem to have that ability to know how to position himself to make his life easier as a defender. You get some players that just have that knack, have that ability. They just know where to position themselves, their body stance and direction they're facing in order to not get tied up or twisted up. Unfortunately, Tavares, for me, he's a worry. He's a massive worry. And we know that Zinchenko was in attendance today. That is no secret now that Zinchenko should be an Arsenal player very soon. We've got Tierney, who, yes, is injury prone, Zinchenko, and we've got Tavares. So the question is really, what do we do with Tavares? And in fact, I'm going to save this segment. I'm going to ask you that later on about 9 players. And what I've done in the comments, in the description of the video below, I've listed all those 9 players. So you can copy and paste that, put it into a comment, and just let me know, keep, sell, or undecided. You'll see what I've written below, but I want you to tell me what you think in the comments. And Tavares is obviously one of those guys, given that now we've got Zinchenko coming through the door. The other 2 players I wanted to talk about were Gabrielle Martinelli and Nicolas Pepe. Now look, Martinelli, I don't think he's not part of the 9, don't get me wrong. This is not a question about do we keep him or sell him. But Martinelli needs to step up now. I feel like he's got this style of playing where you never know what you're going to get. But the reality is, I don't think Martinelli knows. He doesn't seem to have real clarity of a picture of the game when he gets the ball. He gets it and he's trying to figure out what he's trying to do whilst he's got the ball. And you compare that to someone like Gabriel Jesus, who always seems to have an idea. He's gets the ball and bang, he's off in a direction. He knows where he wants to go. He's spun a defender already, and it might not work out for him all the time, but he's very, very assertive in terms of where he wants to go and what he wants to do. Martinelli, he is a really exciting player, but I feel like he needs to develop a bit more refinement to his game now, because often his attempts come to nothing, and I don't think his conversion rate is quite up there. I think Martinelli's a player we've all been very excited about, and now the time has come for us to kind of start saying to him, all right, you really need to raise your level and start delivering on all of this excitement and all of this promise. Now the other one, Nicolas Pepe. Look, whilst the jury's still out on Martinelli, we're all very excited about him. Unfortunately, with Nicolas Pepe, it seems as though most people have got their mind made up. He's one of the 9, so if you've copied and pasted in the comment, in the description below, and you're going to comment and let me know keep, sell, or undecided, I think this will be a very interesting one for me to read through. As far as I'm concerned, Nicolas Pepe is a brilliant footballer, but when he's left to his own devices, when he has too much time and not enough support around him to play snappy 1-2s with, he overplays. And also, he doesn't have that directness where if Martinelli overplays, he might do that, but then in half a second he'll be gone. Pepe, he'll want to beat you once or twice, then maybe a third time. And it's just not worked for him in the Premier League. So yeah, I think that'll be a very interesting one. And obviously, as I say, you'll get to see what I think in the description below. Now, in the second half, when we switched it up, I think Elneny was awful in the first half, much better in the second half. And also 2 other players that really impressed me were Martin Ødegaard and Gabriel Jesus. Martin Ødegaard, I thought, pulled all the strings. He just finds that pocket of space in front of the opposition defence, and I thought he did really well. I mean, look, clearly the opposition isn't up to scratch, but it was a marked improvement based on what we saw in the first half. And Gabriel Jesus as well, I just thought he was absolutely brilliant, as usual. He just seems to have this desire to always make himself felt in the game. And one thing I'm really excited about with Gabriel Jesus is that at Man City, he might not have been the main man, but even in the friendlies, from what I've seen of him in an Arsenal shirt, he wants to take responsibility, and he's trying to take responsibility. When someone else can get the ball, he's like, no, I want that ball. And he really seems to want to be that talisman. Hopefully that will suit him. Some players, when they're asked to be the main man, they shrink. It looks like Gabriel Jesus will relish it, and I really hope he does. Overall, listen, it was the debut of a fantastic kit, and it wasn't looking like we'd get the result to match. Ultimately, we did get the result that the kit deserves. Now, the big game against Chelsea will be our sternest test in pre-season. Obviously, it's top Premier League opposition. They've done pretty well in the transfer market. They've signed some brilliant players, no less than Koulibaly. It will be interesting to see how Gabriel Jesus looks when he comes up against someone like Koulibaly. I'm looking forward to that, if in fact Koulibaly is playing, but he may well not. So let me know what you think of Arsenal today. Put it in the comments below. Put it in the comments as well of all the 9 players that I'm going to mention in the description, where you can copy and paste it, and let me know. Keep, sell, or undecided. And until next time, see you later. Up the Arsenal.